So the Wizards just wrapped up no-win November, and if they keep up this level of play for the rest of the season, they have a genuine chance to go down as the worst team in NBA history.
I mean, we had them in our worst future video, but this is next level bad. Like, even we didn't think their future was quite this bad.
Before we start talking about the Wizards, if you haven't already, make sure you leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So basically, since the end of like the John Wall, Bradley Beal era, the Wizards have just been a very poorly run franchise. I mean, John Wall dealt with a ton of injuries near the end of his Wizards tenure, eventually would join the Rockets in 2020, and instead of just taking that as a sign to just blow things up, just start over, they tried to make it work with Bradley Beal, who back in his time was still like, he was averaging 30 points a game, he was an all-star level player. Like, I guess I can kind of see where they were like, okay, let's try it one more time. But their efforts were to bring in Russ, which, come on, guys.
I mean, he was pretty good for them that one season.
Yeah.
I think set their all-time triple-double record in like mid-season, which was crazy. But
we've been over this. Russ puts a definitive ceiling on your roster if he's one of your two best players.
I mean, they did make a great move by flipping him for Kuzma, KCP, and a first-round pick.
Absolutely.
But then they built that weird big three of Beal.
Big three.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. I mean, that's what they were trying to do. Beal, Kuzma, and Porzingis missed the playoffs in 2022, and that should have been the sign. Like, if you're not even making the playoffs in the East, it's time to blow things up.
Yeah.
But no, they gave Bradley Beal a 5-year supermax deal worth $251 million with a no trade clause on top of that, which is basically unheard of in the NBA.
Yeah. Who's the last guy that had a Melo, I think, had a no trade clause?
That's the one I remember. There might have been another.
Before him, it was Kevin Garnett, I think.
Yeah, maybe Paul George had one recently. I'm not sure, but it is unheard of.
Like, not even LeBron gets a no trade clause. Once again, they missed the playoffs in 23, and that's when they finally decided to blow things up. And of course, it's obvious to say in hindsight, but it's like, why wait this long? Like, you could have traded Beal right after you got rid of Wall for probably a pretty decent package. Instead, you wait too long. And in the couple years at like the end of the Wall Beal era, they're drafting 2019, they took Rui Hachimura with the 9th pick, but, you know, they'd eventually trade him to the Lakers. 2020, Denny Advia at 9th, again, solid player, but they just traded him to the Blazers. 21, Corey Kispert at 15, decent player, and then in 22, Johnny Davis at 10, who barely plays for them. Right. I mean, basically, they were drafting just really solid role players.
And I mean, that's sometimes the guys you get late in the lottery, but they shouldn't have been drafted late in the lottery. They should have flow-blown tanked and maybe got one of the better players, maybe got an Anthony Edwards, maybe Cade, maybe someone like that, but no, they're drafting guys late in the lottery, and that's basically what you get sometimes that late in the draft.
So that brings us to the past two seasons. They somehow managed to trade away Bradley Beal. They finally sent him off to the Phoenix Suns in a trade that jury's still out on whether it's going to work or not. It's definitely worked a lot better this season than it did last season, but they got back Chris Paul and a bunch of second-round picks, who they then flipped to Golden State and brought in Jordan Poole. They sent out Porzingis in a 3-team deal that got them back Tyus Jones. So you get rid of your two best players probably, and you replace them with Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones. Is anyone really surprised they only won 15 games?
Yeah, it's just more bad business. Like, you need to be getting more picks. The Bradley Beal trade, like, honestly, not too bad. And I understood trading for Jordan Poole. Like, at the time, it was kind of like, you know, he had this one bad season. He was great in 2022. Maybe he can have, like, a bounce-back resurgence with Draymond Green not in the locker room.
You know, it's funny. When I was researching this, I found, like, a Reddit thread where it was like, the Jordan Poole trade is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history.
Oh, really?
And one of the top comments was a Golden State fan who's like, just wait till you see him play in Washington.
Yeah.
And you'll understand why the Warriors are not upset at all that he's leaving.
I mean, yeah, when you're playing with Steph and Clay, you know, the spacing opens up. You got Steve Kerr. It kind of made sense.
Yeah. So like I said, the Wizards win 15 games. Unbelievably, that was not the worst record in the NBA last year because Detroit just, I don't know what went wrong with Detroit last year. Monty Williams' heart wasn't in it. They lose 28 straight games. So, you know, they didn't even get the worst record. They did get the second pick in the draft, took Alex Sarr. So, you know, that was something to look forward to. But this past offseason, the Wizards basically just jettisoned like any remaining solid players they had. I mean, they had already traded Daniel Gafford at midseason the year prior, traded Denny Advia to Portland, let Tyus Jones walk in free agency. You brought in Jonas Valanciunas and you got back Malcolm Brogdon as part of the Denny trade. And of course, you still got your French young guys and Sarr and Coulibaly, of course, right? So that's something to look forward to. I don't think anyone expected anything from this team this season, but it is impressive how bad they've been so far.
Yeah, Coulibaly was a good draft pick. Dude clamps up people on defense, and his offense has been a bit better this year. Sarr is disappointing. It's still super early. I'm not going to write him off.
Yeah.
I mean, I still got hope for Scoot. I'm not writing him off, so.
Sarr's still a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. But Sarr, even though it was a weak draft, he was seen as the first overall pick for like much of the summer. Even like the whole NBA season, people were saying like Sarr.
Yeah, Risa Shea was a late riser.
Yeah, and they were saying Sarr. I mean, I know they were only saying it because he's French, but they're like, another Wemby, you know, another French big. He's mobile, you know, everything. Dude, his shooting has just not been there. And I get they want to tank for Cooper Flag. They want to capture the flag. They want to bring in this next great prospect. So that's why they're so bad. But there's no signs of life. There's nothing to really like have hope for on this roster besides maybe Coulibaly. And even then, he's more of a piece to a contending team. 2-17 at the time of this recording. They just wrap up no-win November. That's happened 16 times in NBA history where a team hasn't won a game in a month. Last time it's happened, believe it or not, February 2024, somewhat recently, it was the Wizards. I mean, twice in the span of 10 months, and there was what, like 3 months where games weren't happening.
So, something that's only happened 16 times in the history of the league. It's a bad record, and the Wizards have done it twice in less than a year. No win November. I mean, some people do no shave November.
Yeah.
Some people do no nut November.
Right.
I mean, we're recording this before their game against Dallas on Thursday. We're just going to make a safe bet that Dallas knocks them off. Even if they don't, though, still, this has been a historically bad start to the season. Like, they're on a 15-game losing streak right now. The only 2 wins they have this season are back-to-back wins against Atlanta in early October. So technically, they've only beaten 1 team this season. They haven't even beaten 2 teams. They've only beaten Atlanta. And this blew my mind when I was looking at the basketball reference page. Every single loss this season, except for 1, has been by double digits. And the only loss that was by single digits was against San Antonio, and they lost by 9.
I mean, that's the thing. The Pistons team last year, I don't care. They were better. I think
they absolutely were.
I think the Pistons were better than the Wizards last year because at least the Pistons, it kind of felt like they were getting unlucky. Like, remember that Celtics game? They choked the lead. There was like overtime games. There were close games.
There was signs of life.
There's no signs of life here. Like, they are historically bad. They're scoring 107 points per game. They're giving up almost 123 for a point differential of 15.8 points a night. Worst of all time at the moment. The previous worst was the 93 Mavericks. That team won 11 games. And then the Mavs that season as a whole got outscored 1,246 points. The Wizards right now are on pace for 1,451 points being outscored.
They're on pace to smash the all-time point differential record. They might finish with the worst record in NBA history. I mean, they only need 9 wins to beat the 2012 Bobcats. Personally, I think they'll pick up the 7 more wins that they need somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, their schedule so far this year has been pretty tough. They'll play like the Pelicans or something, or some other bottom-feeding team and get hot. They'll pick up 7 wins somewhere, I think. It's certainly on the table, though, still. The Pistons' 28-game losing streak, that's also on the table because their upcoming schedule, Dallas, they got to play Denver, Memphis, Cleveland. Like, they got some tough games coming up. Someone worked it out, though. Apparently, the game where they would potentially, if they keep losing, where they would potentially set the record is on the road at Philadelphia. So
what a night that day.
Can we get that one on TNT?
Yeah, make a schedule change. Everybody needs to be watching. They do have the Pelicans twice coming up. They have a couple against the Hornets. We'll see how LaMelo's health is doing. That could be it, but I don't know. They might do it. And like beyond that, just looking at the team for like the future, what is there to be excited about? Bilal Coulibaly, his offense has been better. Clamps up people on defense. Sure, he's good. Sarr's been super underwhelming. I mean, dude shooting 37.7% from the field.
As a 7-footer.
Scoot Henderson, who everyone was flaming, was shooting 38.5.
Yeah. why is Sarr shooting 4.5 threes a game?
I don't get
He's
it.
shooting 24.5% from three. Like, he's shooting 48% from two, which isn't even that good for a 7-footer. It's actually pretty bad, but it's at least close to 50%. His shooting percentage is just being dragged down by the fact that he keeps chucking up threes. We said it earlier, Sarr and Coulibaly, they're super young. They get a pass, right? Outside of those two, I mean, you got Corey Kispert, who, you know, is a solid role player on a good contract, but he's not shot well this season. Bub Carrington, who was just a throw-in with the Denny Advia trade, like 9 points per game, 40% shooting for a rookie. It's not awful for a 14th pick in the draft. And then outside of him, Brogdon and Jonas Valanciunas, who you get a heavily protected first for Brogdon, maybe, and 2 seconds for Valanciunas.
Yeah, that's about the market. And then you got Jordan Poole and Kuzma. I mean, it feels like Kuzma's been linked to trades for 2 seasons now, and
he's still on the roster.
I don't think people really want him. And if you tried to trade Jordan Poole, you're sending out more with him than you're getting back. I mean, will they break the record for least wins in a season? Maybe. The Pistons losing streak and the point differential like records, I think they're hitting at least some of those. Maybe like 2 of the 3 or something.
If they hit 2 of those 3, they're the worst team in NBA history. If they hit all 3, they're undeniably the worst. If they hit 2 of the 3, I think you got a strong argument.
And like, for watching a tanking team these past few years, like at least the Blazers, our team showing signs of life.
Yeah.
This Wizards team is like 2 or 3 years away from that. Unless they get Cooper Flag, I don't know. This team, it's looking dark as a Wizards fan. At least they got Jane Daniels and the Commanders balling out, because this is ugly.
That's the video, guys. What do you think of the Wizards this season? I'd love your chat to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.